guys, Netbug here, and I thought I'd do this review a little differently today. Um, Movie reviews for movies that are still in theaters, and therefore I can't watch 50 billion times to analyze them. Um, I figure they're a little more casual, a little more candid, so I thought it'd be interesting to try doing this just good old fashioned vlog style. Let me know what you think. So today we're going to talk about Toy Story 4. Major spoilers if you haven't seen it yet. We're going to talk about the ending. So if you have not seen Toy Story 4 yet, TLDR, it's worth seeing. So go check it out and then come back to this video. So, how to describe Toy Story 4? It's definitely a movie. Here's the thing. I liked Toy Story 4 a lot. It was fun. It was adventurous. If I didn't like it, I wouldn't already have this little guy sitting here. I went out and bought him immediately after the movie. Except Funko Pop, Bonnie isn't written on the bottom. How dare you put the copyright information there instead? Fix this. He is a gift, and I was frankly kind of worried that he would just be the annoying mascot who's pushed way too hard, but no, he really is a wonderful character, and I love him, sweetheart. Um, the thing about Toy Story 4 is it lacks a certain amount of the gravitas Toy Story 3 had. It it feels like you ever watch a great series of movies and then a TV series comes out based on it, and the TV series is good, but it's lighter and softer and doesn't quite feel like it has the same emotional weight. That's kind of what Toy Story 4 felt like, which is weird because it's not like the events that happen in Toy Story 4 don't impact the canon. They definitely do. This isn't some side adventure where we can pretend it didn't happen. The movie ends with the main character literally separating himself from the rest of the group. So it's definitely a weighty movie in that respect, but it just didn't feel like it. It didn't. Toy Story 4 didn't feel real, which is a. Obviously, it was real, it was a movie. It's not like I'm in denial that it happened. It just. It just felt really odd. Here's the thing about the Toy Story franchise, it's hard to judge the movies because you love these characters so much. They're so important to us who grew up with it, and they're such good characters, they're such iconic characters, that anybody who has a basic grasp over the Toy Story characters and can put together a decent story could write a good Toy Story movie because we're just happy to see more of these characters in any context. It doesn't have to be a perfect movie. They could make an animated TV series with lower budget animation, and as long as the characters were written well, nobody would really care that much because these characters are so lovable and they're such a big part of the cultural consensus, and there's no characters exactly like the Toy Story characters. It's really hard to write a bad Toy Story movie, and this pains me. Being this low on, oh, well, anybody could have written a decent Toy Story movie, absolutely pains me because Andrew Stanton, my absolute hero, is credited as one of the two screenwriters on Toy Story 4. And so for me to be saying this movie felt like a TV series version or anybody could have written a good Toy Story movie, I'm not saying that anybody could have written Toy Story 4. There's definitely Stanton's fingerprints on it, but you also kind of get the feeling that there was the story team being as big as it was. I can't help but wonder how much of it was really Stanton's writing and how much of it was here's the plot events, Stanton just put them together into the final script. It didn't feel like Stanton's story in its entirety. The way that usually Stanton stories have a lot more emotional weight. I know everyone rags on Finding Dory as not being as good as Finding Nemo. You're all wrong, but you can feel the emotional weight in that too. It's a very emotionally heavy story. The emotions are put on full display. While in Toy Story 4, it feels like there's emotional beats, but a lot of times the character's emotional thought process is a little more closed off. But yeah, despite, feeling a little lighter in a lot of ways, kind of like Toy Story Light, Diet Toy Story, it still was a really fun movie. I loved it. I had a great time. I got one of the biggest laughs that I have gotten in the last 5 years of going to the movie. So there was some great comedy. I love the whole concept of Buzz not having an internal dialogue. So he's trying to figure out what's going on with Woody. That was really funny, and Buzz is my favorite character, so I got a huge kick out of that. I got a new appreciation for Buttercup. The line of the whole comedy arc about him trying to get Bonnie's dad sent to jail. I have not heard my theater laugh that loudly at the payoff of a joke in a very long time, and I think I missed the next minute of the movie because I was losing it. I feel like the comedy and the expansion of the world, Forky, come back. Forky sort of making us question exactly what defines a toy, how is a toy born, and kind of stretching that definition definitely was one of the coolest things about Toy Story 4. But that ending, the ending. I hate to say this because I think it's great when a movie is willing to mess with the status quo of a franchise, especially because, come on, it's already getting great box office. It's getting a 98% on Rotten Tomatoes, so most people don't agree with me anyway. But you know we're going to get a Toy Story 5, and they just took their main character and split him from the entire group. So we're either going to have to stay with the group without Woody, or we're going to be following Woody and possibly a lack of a lot of the other characters that we remember on these adventures and having to develop this new cast of characters. And maybe there'll be movies about both, I don't know. But I respect that. I will say that. I respect that kind of shift in the status quo. An ending like that changes the status quo of an entire franchise, I have mad respect for that. I do. It's just the ending didn't the ending of Toy Story 4 doesn't feel like it respects the legacy of the Toy Story 3 trilogy. Woody goes from being very stubbornly, you stay with your kid no matter what, even if it's hard, even if it hurts, which is not just a theme in this movie. This isn't something they pulled out of the hat. This has been the major theme in the Toy Story movies since day one. Toy Story 1, Woody wasn't Andy's favorite toy. He didn't go running away because of it. He respected the fact that even if he wasn't Andy's favorite toy, he was there if he needed him. Toy Story 2, they were being sold to the museum. You're right, I may not live forever if I stay with my kid, but I wouldn't miss them growing up for the world. Toy Story 3, Lotso is shown as an antithesis to Woody in saying no owners means no heartbreak, and Woody is vehemently against him even when his friends aren't, and he's right. He is shown as being right in every respect. And then Toy Story 4 comes along and says, well, actually, Woody isn't Bonnie's favorite toy anymore, and Woody isn't gonna be around forever, and Woody and not having an owner means that he doesn't have to suffer, therefore he totally should go. It also feels like it kind of disrespects Bonnie. I get it that Woody never got over Andy, and that's part of the point, but I don't want Bonnie to be written as Andy light. Maybe he's still grieving over Andy in ways, but he's the one who chose, in Toy Story 3, to send everyone to Bonnie. And saying that Bonnie's not enough when Andy did the same things. Heck, if I'm remembering correctly, the whole Woody angst was like that he'd been stuck in the closet for like 3 playtimes, right? He hadn't been played with for a fairly short amount of time. From what we get at the montage in Toy Story 1, Buzz took over the playroom for what could have been months. Buzz took over the bedroom even longer, and that was never treated as a reason to give up on Andy. So to say that, oh, I didn't get played with 3 times in a row, is a good enough reason for him to leave Bonnie is really kind of writing off his character, really writing off Bonnie, really writing off the last 3 Toy Story movies. I think maybe the issue is I never cared about Bo Peep that much. To me, Bo Peep, she existed to support Woody. She wasn't really her own character. And you kind of even get from the start of Toy Story 4 that they know this and we're really trying to establish her as more of a character by adding more backstory for her, adding more of her and Woody having a closeness and her and Woody working together that as equal partners that just wasn't really in the original Toy Story movies. Like, Bo would show up, she'd offer the advice Woody needed, and then she'd be out. She'd show up, she'd offer him advice, she'd flirt with him, and she'd leave. Her whole role was to be the sensible one. She didn't have that much of a personality beyond that. I frankly did not care about Bo Peep being gone in Toy Story 3, other than the fact that it impacted Woody. That was the whole point of taking her out in the first place, was because Bo was gone, Woody had lost something, and he was afraid of losing something else. She wasn't treated as a character even in this context. She was treated as an item. And she was never really developed fully as a character. So, for them to, in one movie, try to make me feel like Bo was always a character, Bo was less important to Woody, and Woody changing his mind about his entire philosophy and the philosophy of the last 3 movies, where he was consistently treated as in the right, for him to change his mind for all that for Bo, I wasn't on board with that. The theme of the Toy Story movies has never been some big arcing love story. It's been friendship. And it's been sticking together with friends. I care more about the friendship between Woody and Buzz than I do about the romance between Woody and Bo. Buzz even points out to Woody that he's leaving him behind. And then he does. I don't feel like the ending of Toy Story 4 was earned. I don't know how it could have been earned. I feel like the story development team knew where they wanted the story to wind up, and they were going to get there regardless of if it was really the best thing for the themes that already had been built up, whether it was the best way to portray the characters. They had to get there no matter what. And the movie suffers for it. The ending is the worst thing about Toy Story 4 by far. Other than that, I really enjoyed it, but it spits in the face of the themes of the last 3 movies. All the times Woody was right in Toy Story 1, 2, and 3, and all the lessons he learned are ignored. Bo is treated with way more weight than I think she deserves, and Bonnie is treated with way less weight than I think she deserves. There's even a scene in Toy Story 4. Bo is talking, and her little Polly Pocket friend is like, man, he's so stubborn. He's willing to stick with his kid no matter what, even if there's consequences. And Bo says, and you know what? You gotta love him for that. And that's when she decides to change her plan. So, what? How do you get from that to Woody doing a 180 and deciding to be disloyal? Because up until that exact moment when he decided he wasn't going with the others, the whole scene, everything in the movie was set up to feel like Bo was either going to go with them or she was going to respect Woody's decision and they were going to go their separate ways. And then they didn't. The fact is, Woody and Bo were too different to be reconciled. And that should have been how the movie ended. Or with something about maybe Bo moving closer now that she's aware where Woody is. Maybe Woody's team helping sometimes with Bo's mission. Because, okay, I'll give it this. Saying that, like, Bo's attitude is the same as Lotso's isn't fair, because Bo is helping others. I can see the emotional arc for Woody about him deciding that what he wants to do is give himself to others, because even if that means it puts him in a support role. I can see that arc. You can see it very clearly with Gabby. He decides to make a sacrifice for Gabby that, frankly, Gabby has not earned. And it's one of the most powerful things in the movie, is he decides to do something good to help someone who's suffering. Even when they've made bad decisions, he forgives them. And that was really powerful to me. I thought that was a really powerful part of the movie. I've heard some comments that, well, Gabby really should have dealt with more consequences of her actions, and that's fair. But I also thought that, well, if she's not going to, then that's a powerful moment of forgiveness that adds something really thoughtful to the movie. If we see someone suffering and they make bad choices, but we can help them, do we not? That's a whole philosophy lecture, and I am not qualified to give that. But the point is, you can see really clearly Woody's arc for deciding that he wants to help others and be in a more support role, but you can't as clearly see the arc for him leaving Bonnie. And apparently Pixar is really big shippers because they decided to ignore a lot of this. But sometimes relationships just don't work out even when you care about someone. Sometimes there's nothing wrong in a relationship. Sometimes you're just two people who want different, there's not always a bad guy in a relationship. Sometimes you're just two people who want different things. And I don't think that would be a bad lesson for kids to learn. So often in media, we don't see that. We don't see that. We see the bad guy. When we see media about breakups, we see one person as the victim, or one person who cared more than the other, or one person who turned evil. You don't really see we're both good people, but we just want different things. And that could have been a very powerful way to go about it. Maybe a bit of a downer ending. And maybe Pixar just did not want to go for a downer ending. Pixar's never done a downer ending, but I think it would have been much more true to the characters. Have you ever read a fan fiction where the characters were well written, the story was fun, but it explored such different themes and felt so different from the way that the normal canon franchise looks at things that you enjoyed it a lot, but you look at it and you're like, wow, I'm glad this isn't canon. Toy Story 4 is that, but it's canon. Toy Story 1, even if you're not your kid's favorite toy, you should still be there for them when they need you. Toy Story 2, being loved by a kid is a toy's purpose more than anything. Toy Story 3, the idea of no owners means no heartbreak is flawed, and Woody was right about believing that they should stick with their kid and do what he needed them to do, even if that meant be with another kid eventually. Toy Story 4. Never mind all that. We're going to say Woody's entire life philosophy changes and that Woody was wrong about all of those things because we really want to set him up with a girl who has frankly never been an actual developed character before this movie. It was still a good movie, and if you decided, screw spoilers, I'm going to watch this anyway, and you haven't decided if you're going to see it yet, you should see it. It's full of great character moments, great comedy, and some really fun stuff. But the ending does not fit the franchise, and the themes do not fit the franchise. And while I admire Pixar being willing to mess with the status quo of their bread and butter franchise so heavily to go a different direction, they didn't have to slap several of their characters and themes and all of this stuff that they'd previously developed in the face to do that. Frankly, when we get a Toy Story 5, because come on, you know we're going to, this is their cash cow, I really hope that it sticks with Buzz and the gang, because if they try to sell me on an entire movie of just Woody and Bo going on adventures, I'm not invested enough in Bo. I'm not invested enough in some of the new characters traveling with them. And I'm a little disappointed in the way Woody's character was written in this movie. So I'm not sure I'd be interested in a Toy Story 5 that's about Woody and Bo Peep. I think the best thing that can come out of the way that this ended is if the next movie focuses on Buzz. Because we saw a little hint of him trying to figure out what to do on his own, trying to figure out how to be the leader of this group. And he does have some leadership material as shown in the past, but he hasn't really been allowed to unleash just how much potential he has as a leader. That would interest me. Maybe that's the safer direction to go with it because everyone loves Buzz Lightyear. And, and I know that some people would complain because, we have all this potential of these rogue toys trying to find people their owners, and you just want to hang out with Buzz in Bonnie's room. But yeah, I do. I'd rather hang out with Buzz and Jessie and Rex and Ham and Potato Head and Dolly and all these characters, some of whom I've barely gotten to know but have fallen way more in love with than the new characters introduced in Toy Story 4. I'd rather see more of them. I'm not so invested in Woody and Bo's relationship that I'm willing to leave all these other characters who I absolutely adore behind to focus on them. And I really hope that's not the direction Pixar's planning on taking this franchise, because that would be a much bigger disappointment than Woody's gone and we get to see how the others react to it. On the bright side, we got some fun character moments, some really great laughs, and Forky, who is pretty much an absolute gift. And I can't wait to see 5,000 hashtag relatable Tumblr gifs of him falling into trash cans.